98.9, Centre 97.3, Est-Ouest 91.7. RM1, la radio nationale.
RM1, it's 9 o'clock. The news presented by Eris Stewart. Good morning, Eris.
Good morning, Sophie.
The headlines.
Government tables historic police amendment bill marking a new era for justice and transparency in Mauritius. Prime Minister hails vows zero tolerance for illicit activities in Mauritian waters following 6.5 billion rupees Alpha Bravery cocaine seizure. Parliament debate turns to coastal protection works at one and only Les Saint-Gérard, seeing Environment Minister defending environmental impact assessment variation. 200 million rupees compensation already paid to Wakasho victims as government prepares fresh civil action. Figures reveal that cybercrime unit has recorded 837 cases since 2023 without any convictions so far. Bail ruling for Nasser Biki expected November 14 as FCC maintains objections. Hearing of former FCC Commissioner Junaid Arun Fakim postponed after defense challenges presiding magistrate. In world news, Colombia to suspend intelligence cooperation with US over strikes on drug vessels. And in sports news, GRA confirms banned substances found in Bon Voyage as trainer is given 72 hours to request second sample analysis. It's a bill the government is presenting as historic. The police amendment bill was introduced in the National Assembly this Tuesday, November 11, by Prime Minister and Minister of Home Affairs Navin Ramgoolam. Its objective to modernize the Police Act of 1974 and allow the Commissioner of Police to call upon foreign experts for complex and unsolved investigations, a reform the minister defended as a turning point for justice and transparency in Mauritius. More in this report by Santana Ponsino, voiced by Ashi Bachu.
At the National Assembly, Prime Minister and Minister of Home Affairs Navin Ramgoolam described the bill as urgent and historic. He reminded that the Police Act, over 50 years old, was no longer suited to modern crime, now marked by transnational trafficking, cybercrime and money laundering. The new bill introduces a key amendment. It authorizes the Commissioner of Police to hire foreign specialized investigators for serious or unsolved cases. These experts will operate under the direct supervision of the Commissioner without any power of arrest, but with specific expertise in technology, finance or forensics. The minister cited several unresolved cases, including those of Kisnen and Nadine Dantier, which he described as symbols of the previous government's failures. He asserted that these investigations were mishandled, manipulated or deprived of transparency, and said that this reform aims to correct those mistakes by giving law enforcement the means to finally get to the truth. According to the Prime Minister, these amendments are part of a broader reform effort already underway with the creation of the Financial Crimes Commission. The goal is to restore public trust, strengthen institutional cooperation, and ensure that no one, regardless of rank, is above the law. The government thus promises a turning point in the fight against crime and judicial delays. However, members of the opposition are already denouncing it as an open door to foreign interference and the politicization of sensitive investigations.
And yesterday in the National Assembly, the Prime Minister Navin Ramgoolam praised the Alpha Bravery operation, which led to the seizure of 433 kilograms of cocaine valued at 6.5 billion rupees, one of the largest drug busts in recent years. He highlighted the professionalism and coordination between the police, National Coast Guard, Marcos Commandos, ADSU, MRA and K9 teams, saying this sends a clear message to international networks that Mauritius will not tolerate illicit activities on its territory.
Madam Speaker, the Alpha Bravery operation demonstrated outstanding interagency coordination, tactical efficiency and operational discipline. From the very outset, monitoring, tracking and coordination of the entire operation was undertaken in a professional and an exemplary manner by the CP and the teams of National Coast Guard, Marcos Commandos, ADSU and SOCO teams, the MRA and also K4 units. with the support of the Mauritius Port Authority, all contributed to this remarkable success. I wish to express my deepest appreciation to every officer involved in this complex and high-risk operation.
The Prime Minister also recalled that the former government failed in its responsibilities, having ignored alerts about suspicious vessels, possibly transporting drugs in Mauritian waters. He referred to a June 2024 incident where 2 ships were spotted near the coast and the police failed to act, a situation that drew criticism from the Regional Maritime Information Centre.
The previous government failed to act on information it received on the suspicious movement of ships probably transporting illegal substance crossing our waters. At one point in June 2024, there were 2 ships crossing near our shores, one headed to Seychelles and the other one heading to Mauritius. The one that went to Seychelles was arraigned by the Seychelles authorities, and 900 kilograms of narcotics was seized on that vessel. However, the ship advancing in our waters was allowed to move freely. The police was made aware of this information, but it turned a deaf ear, much to the disappointment of the Regional Maritime Information Centre, a centre which is dedicated to the coordination of the regional operations at sea with respect to maritime safety and security in the Western Indian Ocean. Now we can all guess why the police in this country did nothing while Seychelles intercepted the other vessel.
And staying on the subject of Parliament, coastal protection works at the one and only Le Saint-Gérand Hotel in Poste-Flac were the subject of a question in the National Assembly yesterday. Opposition MP Raviraj Bichuk questioned Environment Minister Rajesh Bhagwan, requesting specific details on the issuance and follow-up of the Environmental Impact Assessment License and its variation. Didier Rose and Ashi Bachu tell us more.
In his reply, Minister of Environment Rajesh Bhagwan emphasized that the Environmental Impact Assessment Permit, initially granted on 10th of July 2024, covered the constructions of groins, breakwaters, basalt rock revetments, and beach nourishment. Following a variation request submitted on May 13 for 2025, the hotel was authorized to replace basalt with a sandbag core topped with basalt rock on rock revetment 2 located near the helipad. This modification aimed to allow faster execution in order to mitigate severe coastal erosion. The minister confirmed that the variation was approved after consultation with 5 key authorities, including the Ministry of Housing and Lands and the National Coast Guard, and that no objections were raised by the EIA committee. However, the works were marred by tensions. Protests by fishermen on August 5, 2025 led to a suspension of activities. Despite a consultative meeting held on August 12 this year, an interim injunction from the Supreme Court was required on September 10, 2025, to allow work to resume on September 26. Minister Bhagwan stated that the project was completed on October 7 this year, and following 3 inspections between August and October, no non-compliance has been observed to date. The government has pledged the ongoing monitoring of the site.
200 million rupees has been paid out to victims of the MV Wakasho shipwreck between 2021 and 2022, including fishermen and businesses affected by the disaster. However, the case is not closed. The ship owner, Okuyo Maritime Corporation, is attempting to cap compensations at 720 million rupees, as explained in Parliament by Minister of Agro-Industry and Blue Economy, Arvind Bulel. The case was heard before the Supreme Court on the 24th of October, and the judgment is under deliberation. Meanwhile, the government, through the Attorney General's office, is preparing a civil action to claim all compensations related to the damages caused by the oil spill. The cybercrime unit of the CCID has recorded 837 cases of cybercrime between January 2023 and November 2025, according to figures released by the Prime Minister in response to a parliamentary question by MP Stéphanie Anquetil. However, the judicial outcome remains concerning. No convictions have been recorded to date. Out of these cases, 640 are still under investigation. 167 have been closed due to lack of evidence or identifiable suspects, and only 5 have been brought to court. In total, 120 arrests have been made and 1,038 statements recorded. Established in 2006, the Cybercrime Unit has 15 officers under the direction of an Assistant Superintendent of Police. Faced with the lack of results, the government has strengthened international cooperation particularly with the Cyber Department of Maharashtra in India, to improve training, investigative tools, and prosecution capacity in the fight against cybercrime. The bail hearings of Nasser Biki continued yesterday at the Port Louis District Court, where he was cross-examined by the FCC. The FCC maintains its objection to bail, citing risks of witness interference and evidence tampering, noting that a forensic analysis found data deleted from Biki's phone. The accused says he reset the device due to a bug, while the FCC has also revealed that a phone was seized in a bag meant for him during his hospitalization. His lawyers Samad Gulomali and Ashley Urangi argue there is no direct evidence linking him to the case. Earlier this week, Biki made claims about the acting FCC director but refused to elaborate, citing fears for his safety. Magistrate Christina Shavrimutu will deliver her ruling on the 14th of November. And finally, the case involving Junaid Harun Fakim, former FCC commissioner, was not heard yesterday before the Rose Hill Court. The magistrate announced a postponement to Wednesday following a challenge filed from Fakim's lawyers against Magistrate Arun Rohamali. Umila Bulel had earlier questioned the court's impartiality after the November 6 hearing. Fakim was absent, still hospitalized at Sikia Welkin Clinic. As a reminder, he was arrested for using his office for gratification and breach of confidentiality. The FCC accuses him of attending a meeting with Nasser Biki and Malagasy businessman Mami Ravatumanga, who is under investigation for money laundering. And it's 9:11. You're listening to RM1, where we move to international news. Colombian President Gustavo Petro has ordered his nation's security forces to stop sharing intelligence with the United States until the Trump administration stops its strikes on suspected drug traffickers in the Caribbean. In a message on X, Petro wrote that Colombia's military must immediately end communications and other agreements with U.S. security agencies as relations deteriorate between the nations that were once close partners in the fight against drug trafficking. Critics have likened U.S. attacks on speedboats suspected of carrying drugs to extrajudicial executions. Petro wrote that the fight against drugs must be subordinated to the human rights of the Caribbean people. While it wasn't immediately clear what kind of information Colombia will stop sharing with the U.S., the White House has had no immediate response to Petro's latest statements. And finally, in sports, the Gambling Regulatory Authority has revealed on Monday that a post-race test conducted on the horse Bon Voyage detected the presence of 2 banned anti-inflammatory substances. The sample was taken following the 9th race meeting held on October 25 as part of routine testing. The horse, which competed in the Duraco Solar Limited Cup under trainer Carl Hewitson and belonging to the Paul Foucault stable, was thus identified as having tested positive for these substances. The trainer now has 72 hours to request the analysis of sample B. Meanwhile, the race stewards will open a formal inquiry to shed full light on the matter. That's all from me this morning. Thanks for tuning in. Stay tuned now to the Intimate playlist until 10 a.m.